about this. Thank you very much, Ali and Bushbak, for always joining us and sharing your insight. Now we move on to our next news. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv fully backs a joint statement by European leaders on securing peace in Ukraine while safeguarding Ukrainian and European interests. The statement, signed by leaders of France, Italy, Germany, Poland, the UK, Finland, and the European Commission, welcomes US President Donald Trump's efforts to end the war, but stresses the need to keep pressure on Russia and ensure security guarantees for Kyiv. President Zelensky says the end of the war must be fair, warning that any deal forcing Ukraine to give up territory would embolden Russian aggression. Trump meets Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on coming Friday to discuss a possible deal to end the 3.5-year conflict. Now, for this discussion, we are joined by Professor Georgi Toloraya. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Moscow. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now,
Hello. Yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Professor, do you think that, is it fair for Ukraine that for its territory, the discussion is being held without them in Alaska by President Putin and President Trump?
I think this is a real effort to stop the war and to end the war. And I'm just very much disappointed by the European and Ukrainian reaction. European statement says, although in the form it says it supports the diplomatic work, but in fact they say that the talks can only take place under the ceasefire conditions. And this is just the start, and that Zelensky should participate in them. This is not about it. And I think the reaction by the European governments, and especially by the press, which universally writes the same thing, that Zelensky should take part in the meeting and that otherwise it will be a defeat for Ukraine. I think it shows the concern, the upset of the European leaders with the prospect of actually ending the war. So we now see that, in fact, that Europe would like the war to continue people, both Ukrainians and Russians, who are the same nation, Russians being killed, and both countries destroyed as long as possible. And therefore, I see that the real goal is to undermine or even to disrupt this meeting in Alaska. Meeting in Alaska, it's of course it's not seen in Russia as a real magic key that would open all the doors. And in fact, some people are really concerned that President Putin is going to US, which cannot in fact guarantee his safety. And some people say that maybe Trump will secretly bring in Zelensky and he will show up, from the bushes, as we say in Russian. So the people are concerned that there might be some trick. But I think that this meeting in Alaska is important because it can get some real prospect for the real ending of the war. Zelensky and his supporters said that Ukraine won't give its territories. It's also meant to disrupt the talks because it's a non-starter. The territories which are also under control of Russia won't be getting back. And I sincerely think that the majority of Ukrainian population, the majority of Ukrainians, they don't think that getting back Donbass, which is inhabited by the hostile Russian population, would be very much important for them. They know that they cannot use it otherwise than kill all the people living there, and they won't be living there. So for the most of the Ukrainian population, I don't think that does matter much. What matters is ending the war, ending the disruption, and starting to build up the peace regime.
And
we shall see how it will go, but I'm very disappointed by the European reaction.
And Professor, now looking at U.S.'s role here under President Trump's leadership, how should they play balancing the interests of both Ukraine and Russia?
Of course, U.S. is not a global judge who can put down a verdict on how Russia and Ukraine should deal with it, but it can promote some kind of avenues to the deal which is to be discussed.
Thank you very much, Professor Georgi, for sharing that insight all the way from Moscow. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we move on.